Coming off a tough loss to the Patriots, the Browns make a little bit of a roster move. We'll tell you who is no longer with the program. We'll do that coming up as well. We'll do a little bit looking at the injuries. A key player on the offensive line looks like he's going to be out for some substantial time, at least for this week. We'll tell you who that is and how that affects the Browns running game. And also we'll get into kind of a bit of a Ravens preview. The Ravens 3-3 coming into this week. The Browns need to get this win, or we looking at the next couple games in the AFC North being a tough sled. We'll talk about Lamar Jackson. We'll talk about their struggles a little bit on their side of the ledger, and we'll do that coming up on the next Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, also from the Ultimate Sports Show, 1-1. You can also catch them tonight at the end of the Cavaliers game. The guys from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show at GBush91, Garrett Bush, integral part over there. Of course, the Dog Pound 92.3, The Fan, Saturday mornings. Make sure you're checking that out. Garrett, it was a fantastic job over there. It was a pleasure to jump in there every now and then, chop it up with Garrett. Today's episode of Locked On Browns is brought to you by Bird Dogs, the most comfortable shorts, pants, and sweatpants with built-in liners. Go to birddogs.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, no space, and boom, a free Bird Dogs rope hat with your pair of Bird Dogs. We're going to get in here basically the news of the day. We'll start basically, through the Browns' injuries to this point. Browns made a release today, and which I think I think it's kind of maybe of a microcosm, and we'll get to this in segment 2 of John Johnson III's words today about maybe dedication to craft here as to, maybe being some of the issues on the defensive side of the ball to this point. And our first look here as we start to turn the page to the Baltimore Ravens, Sunday, 1 o'clock. Browns, Birds in Baltimore. So we start here today. Injury. Wyatt Teller, it's a calf again. If everybody remembers, he went through this in 2020. 2020, he missed, I think it was 3 weeks he missed in 2020. He's already pretty much ruled out for this week. Monday Night Football against the Bengals, still up in arms. Wyatt says he feels the injury is not as significant as it was in 2020. But as we all know, Browns tend to be cautious on these fronts. Last thing they want to do, and they kind of just probably did it a week ago by playing Jadeveon Clowney against the Chargers. Then he was unable to go the following week, as we all know, against the New England Patriots. So certainly something to keep an eye on there. Denzel Ward still not back yet at practice, with the concussion. So definitely something to monitor as this week goes on. Some rest days, obviously, which we've kind of grown accustomed to here. Joe Haeg, and I'm actually getting a little nervous about Joe Haeg. I mean, people probably forget he's even here, but I mean, when you're on the injury list and out of practice for this long with a concussion as an offensive lineman, it's just kind of strange. I mean, obviously the injury happens along the offensive line. We all know this. But normally your more serious ones are, on skill players, where guys are moving at top speed. And then also today, Garrett, Browns, I guess it was last week, right? Last week, Browns had released Richard LeCounte from the active 53-man roster, did bring him back the next day, put him on the practice squad. And we'll get into this and how it reflects the Browns defense currently in segment 2 here from John Johnson III. But when you make a statement basically saying, you can't just come in here, practice ends and basically be in your car and out the building. And then the Browns, after that statement is made, essentially cut a player, even a practice squad player, shortly thereafter. You kind of have to think maybe that was a guy falling under this. If we remember Garrett, maybe it was 3-4 weeks ago, Perrion Winfrey was going through some things as well. You got to wonder if maybe this applied to him at the time. But, so Browns move on from a player. You're going to be without Wyatt Taylor. I guess it would be for a whole, would be your next guy up. I mean, I don't know with Chris Hubbard. It still seems weird Chris Hubbard's here because, there's been opportunities for him to play, and they actually haven't called his number. And look, at this point, I mean, he's a veteran. I'm sure somebody would like the opportunity to get him in there. But Brown's a little banged up. But look, it's that time of the year. Everybody gets a little banged up. No excuses. Next man type of mentality. I mean, you're not going to get anybody who's going to come in here and play to the little Wyatt Teller. We got a great system in place. You got a great offensive line coach. For God's sakes, Garrett, there better be a reason you're carrying 11 offensive linemen on a roster.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Hudson come in before him. Yeah, this is the point in the season where I think this is if the more they lose, the more you're going to continue to see a shakeup in the roster, especially in certain parts of the defense. Because you look at it, the defense is wildly disappointing. And even though you want to get a good look at Deshaun Watson, you want to get a good look at him this year, but when you look at the way the defense is playing, there's no way that you can get a great evaluation unless you're just planning on having a shootout every game and you want Deshaun Watson to throw the ball 100 times and score 50 points a game. But that he's not going to help the defensive side of the football. And when it comes to Richard LeCounte, trust and believe that they were probably giving him an opportunity to step in there and to grab one of those positions. If Richard LeCounte would have been accountable, he would have known what he was doing. It was in his playbook. And if he was able to make a couple plays, it's not like John Johnson and Grant Delpit are being world beaters back there. It's not like they're doing something splash-wise with production. So if he could have got in the game, D'Anthony Bell, the same thing. If they could get in the game and make a couple plays, they can find themselves as a person who's going to be a starter on an NFL defense. But they didn't do that. Those guys, the younger guys, are struggling as we speak in terms of getting that's together. So right now, I look at it is this: this is the APB for all hands on deck. That means practicing like you're a starter, preparing like you're a starter. And if they're not seeing those things, they say, well, give me somebody else in here that can push the guys that are the starters right now and go out there and be contributors. So those are all things that, that's what leadership wants them to do, but it's up to the players to do it. But, looking at these injuries, it's concerning because they really weren't playing that well when everybody was healthy. To be truthful, they had the whole roster healthy and they still weren't putting up no points. So injuries are part of it. Every team goes through it, and the best teams figure out a way to strive and actually flourish during adversity.
If there's one spot where we've seen the Browns actually over the last couple of years be able to deal with an injury and basically still prosper, it is the offensive line. We know the offensive line is made up of a lot of great players, but we also know it's a great system with a great offensive line coach. And I'm not going to say it hasn't hurt them, but it hasn't killed them or buried them in the last couple of years. There's been times where guys have been in and out of that lineup. And it's for the most part, it's not really business as usual for Chubb in the running game. We'll see the way it works here against the Ravens. It's easier to plug a guy in when you know the opponent as well as you do, like the Browns do going into this matchup. So, that's certainly something in their favor. For Richard LeCounte, look, it's, there were issues last year and he got sent home. And it never really, parlayed this year. And as you mentioned pretty eloquently, I would agree, because this coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball, they know, they're in trouble. They know their days could possibly be numbered. So this is like, all basically last stop, last chance. And if it means I'm going to give a D'Anthony Bell some reps, because I think he might go out there and give me a better showing than one of the two safeties did on Sunday, could happen. Same thing, Ronnie Harrison. If I think Ronnie Harrison can go out there and give me a couple better reps than maybe Grant Delpit, I got to try it. Because if I'm Joe Woods, I got to go down all guns a-blazing here. I basically got to, empty the clip. Because, another poor showing here. This team gets to 2-5. Telling me you don't make a change during the season, that's fine. Sometimes your hands are tied. You ain't got a choice. And sometimes, look, if the lesson is not being learned and the guys are not listening to the lesson plan that's being given, eventually you got to say, well, I can't go get an entire new classroom. I got to maybe try getting a different teacher, even if it would be somebody on a substitute level, giving somebody else on that defensive side of the ball, coaching staff wise, the opportunity to try and lead this defense, do something different here. We got a couple of reads coming up here. We're going to get into John Johnson's words today, because I think it's something I don't think surprises anybody what John Johnson III said today. But the thing is when you actually put these words out there, and without saying people's names, you're essentially basically putting everybody on notice.
Yep.
It can go one of two ways. It becomes a rallying cry, or it just falls for bigger dissension within the ranks. Get into a little
Yep.
bit more here. Garrett Bush, Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. Bird Dogs. If you haven't heard, Bird Dogs apparel. Bird Dogs. They just sent out new sweatpants here. Super comfortable. Like that cute little Charmin bear rubbing up against your thighs. You know that comfy little bear family. Really comfortable. Definitely part of my Sunday gear. Sitting around here watching games all day. Go to birddogs.com. Enter the promo code Locked On, and they'll throw in a free Bird Dogs rope hat. That's birddogs.com. Promo code Locked On, all caps, no space, and boom, a free Bird Dogs rope hat with your pair of Bird Dogs. The most comfortable shorts, pants, and sweatpants with built-in liners. You will not take these things off. I promise you. Also, continuing along here, LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out the LinkedIn Jobs. And LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Go to LinkedIn Jobs. You add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word out that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you would like to hire, interview, and get to know better and make eventually part of your team. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. G. Bush, Jeff Lloyd. Make sure you hit that notification bell and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On Browns on YouTube. As we always do, drop videos every single day. Thank you for watching and listening on the podcast and making Locked On Browns podcast your first listen of each day. And then finally, the 2-minute warning post-game show. We've had great success with that. Lots of views, great interaction with fans. If you want to be a part of that, if you want to be able to see that, just simply go to Locked On Browns YouTube page or Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube page. Go ahead, like the post, go ahead and subscribe, and then hit the notification bell so that you'll be able to get all our content automatically that is driven to your smart TV, your phone, or whatever other devices that you may use. Jeff, we talked a little bit about Richard LeCounte, some of the guys that the Browns were counting on didn't step up. He's no longer with the squad. Let's get into some other things that are going to prohibit people from playing, not just not being on the team, but in terms of injury reports. So you got a calf injury with, Wyatt Teller, who is probably your best run blocker as far as, a road grader, got somebody that really clears open lots of holes for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. He's going to be out with a strained calf. Somebody said, I saw on Twitter, a doctor said it was probably 3 days before it starts feeling better, but it could all be up to 6 weeks in terms of coming back from it and making sure that, you don't have any residual effects of it. And mind you, this is a similar calf injury that Wyatt Teller had last year that kept him out of some games. So he knows what the pain is. He knows what the threshold is. He knows how it feels. Hopefully they could get to a point that they get that together. Also, we got to get to John III. Got to get to John III. He had a lot of stuff talking about the defense, talking about some of the guys that are not preparing, talking about some guys that had a quote that guys may not actually be spending all of the time that they need to in the film room, spending in the extra times away from the facility, watching films and really just being in there. And he made it seem like nobody was doing that extra stuff out there. Which is crazy because I played at a MAC school before. And during the season, we had a sign-up list of all of the times that you went in and looked at film. There was a mandatory time we had to be there we lifted weights at 5 a.m. from 6 to 7. We did, we came back and did our film work, but there was a sign-in sheet that we had to sign on the door, making sure that we had a certain amount of hours of film work that was collected and tracked by coaches. So for me, when I hear that, it is like you don't have those type of guardrails, not only in like, Big Ten schools, you expect it. SEC schools, you expect that. Big time Power 5 conferences, but also you expect that from NFL players. I thought that was a natural prerequisite to being like, hey, I'm a starter in the league. A certain amount of hours of watching film and breaking that down is pivotal to you having a great success rate on Sundays. Your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Well, look, I mean, this goes back to any stage of football essentially you play. Number one, you need to look at your past performance and you need to see, and it's always good certainly to watch what you did well, but you're going to learn a million times more about the things you didn't do well. You do at any level. I mean, high school, college, obviously the NFL. And basically to the root of what John Johnson III is saying is, this isn't essentially a 9-to-5 job. It's not the time frame that you're required to be in the building. You grab your bag, throw it in your car, and go home. There's so much more than that. The greatest defense that I can ever remember, Ray Lewis, the Ravens back in the day, these guys got together every Monday night. So they had Monday Night Football going on one TV, and then they basically bashed each other left and right while they watched their own game from the previous week. Then they all got together again Friday night, sat down, and watched who they were about to play on Sunday. And I'm talking Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. These guys are first ballot Hall of Fame players. If anybody could afford to cut corners, it was Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. Guess who didn't? Ed Reed and Ray Lewis.
Yep.
Basically what John Johnson III is saying, and look, this has kind of got to be on John Johnson III. And who knows, maybe it does exist. John Johnson III, when you are the veteran, and keep in mind, Denzel is not getting his money just yet. His money starts next. You're the veteran. You're the highest paid guy in your room. Y'all better be at the crib, 7 o'clock. I'll have dinner. There'll be plenty of food. This, that, and the other thing. And you sit down, because the other thing is, as players, you don't talk much in film sessions.
Right.
You are there to take notes. And, coach stressed that 4 times. So I better make sure coach stressed that 4 times. When we go to the practice field tomorrow, I better do it. Because if I don't, after he just stressed it 4 times, number one, he thinks I'm either A, not listening to him, B, I'm not paying attention, or I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want. Yep. So the importance of extra work, it's the attention to detail. And look, you could be the greatest collection of athletes and football players in the world. And the Browns certainly do have some. There's no question about that. But it's the little things, and it's extra time. And, and I think maybe John Johnson III sensing that this probably hasn't been going on. And now you're going to go play a team like the Ravens, where you need even more discipline against them than anybody else, because you can do everything right. Defensive line, linebackers, secondary, everything's right. And then guess what? Lamar found a crease, and could be party time for the Ravens.
Ooh.
So for him to do that this week, it's important. And I think for Richard LeCount, I think that was maybe a sign of what's going on here. There are some guys that are doing what is asked of them. There are some guys who are not doing what is required of them, which means going the extra mile, and it's going home. And look, I'll be honest, go through some of these guys' social media accounts. A lot of guys, soccer on during the week. A lot of guys know exactly what's going on over there as far as European soccer. I'm not saying names, but you know what I'm saying. When you see that these guys are watching every game that we are,
yeah.
When is the extra stuff being done? And maybe that does have something to do with it. And you can never hurt yourself by doing too much film study, but not doing enough. It's maybe can lead to what we've seen the last 3 weeks, where we have a defense got beat around by Atlanta, beat around by LA, and got beat around so much physically and mentally by the Patriots. By the beginning of the fourth quarter, they were out.
It's tapping out, and I like how you put that out there. You're just like, I hope y'all not doing that. Y'all be concentrating on a lot of other things. I will say this, man.
They seem to find time for other things. That's all I'm saying. They seem to find time for a lot of things.
When you taking L's, everybody it's a fair look. It's a fair assessment. When you taking L's to team you should beat, people is gonna peek under your closet. When your mom told you to go clean the room and you just thought you was slick, you put all the stuff under the bed. That's what the Browns did. They put a lot of stuff under the bed, but you got to get to where you want to go. You got to clean some of that stuff out and get to what the root of the issue is. And for me, at this point, I just want to make plays. Just go out and do it, man. I mean, it's so much you can talk about this. It's only so much where you can give excuses. We're at the point of the season where now you're in divisional games. You're gonna find out exactly who you are.
No question. And look, I mean, and the other thing is, and if you are players who are struggling, or if you are players who are maybe manning a spot right now where you're not necessarily the starter, but now you got an opportunity where you are starting, you got to go the extra mile. You literally have to go the extra mile. There are guys who are good enough that you want to know whatever they're going to do, get a pass. Myles Garrett, I'm not saying not doing the work or not. Myles Garrett's going to go out there and get every single rep that Myles Garrett is ready to play. But there's about 6, 7 other guys on that defense right now where you're on this ledge right now where it's, you want to know what? I'll give somebody else a shot.
Just because linebacker, safety.
Pretty much. I wouldn't even be surprised, with possibility on Sunday, the linebacker plays special teams. He might get a shot because you're looking for guys. You're looking for guys that are just going to go out there and give you the best effort. JOK got taken out for reps to Sione Takitaki on Sunday. That tells you something. And look, and they didn't play any better. So that tells me right now, if they think somebody else, Garrett's going to go in there and get it done, they're going to get the opportunity.
I don't know who 80 is. I ain't trying to see him no more. Punt return.
Chester.
No. Hey, Donovan Peoples-Jones can't do nothing but fair catch. That's fine.
Don't even put a guy back there. Just let the ball roll to a stop.
Hey, punt safe. Punt safe. Punt safe, right?
I'd rather risk the 15 by bringing all 11 to try and block it than to go through that nonsense again. But we're going to continue on here. It's our first look here at the 2022 version of the Ravens. I think 3-3. A lot of people may be a little bit surprised by the record, but just like the Browns, they've lost some close games that they should have been into as well. So we'll get to that here. Latest Locked On Browns: Jeff, Lloyd, Garrett, Bush. Prize Picks. Now, you guys get into this. Now, look, everybody's been talking about how bad these Thursday night games are. Tomorrow night, you got Saints, Cardinals. How about a way to spice it up here? Take anywhere from 2 to 5 guys in that game. That's all you got to do. And if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. It includes the NFL, NBA, MLB, women's sports, collegiate sports, you name it, they got it. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is just that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play free daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with your promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. You deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. G Bush, make sure you follow me at GBush91 on Twitter. You can follow Jeff at Jeff _LJ_Lloyd. We talked about injuries. We talked about some things going on the other side of the ball. We talked about Richard LeCounte no longer being with this program. And we talked about some areas that the Browns defense could stand to take some upgrades. Now let's go ahead and take a look behind enemy lines, so to speak. Get to the Baltimore Ravens. They're a team out there that's 3-3. They're a team out here who now is, at the top of the leader, at the top of the division. I don't know who has a tiebreaker between them and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Ravens currently in first place.
Ravens, okay. But it doesn't really matter. If the Browns could get a win against the Ravens and get a win against the Cincinnati Bengals, they could be in first place. Now, we've always said that we've had something on the Bengals a little bit. The Browns always get up to play against the Bengals. However, the Ravens are a little bit different story. This team has looked good at sometimes, but they've given up double-digit leads as well, just like the Browns. The only difference is the simple fact that they have a guy named Lamar Jackson who's going to be playing in this football game, which equalizes a lot of different things. The Browns have traditionally struggled against Lamar Jackson. He's gotten whatever he wanted, either that's through the air, whether that's extending plays, throwing the ball, football downfield, or just design runs. He's done that, to a very high level against the Browns. And to me, I look at this game as well. We talked about communication. The way that John Harbaugh is communicating versus the way Kevin Stefanski is gonna, communicate. And is some level of emotion that John Harbaugh can get out of his players. I'm not sure that your boy Kevin Stefanski is exuding that same type of energy where people want to say proverbially we'll run through a wall for him. This is a very pivotal stage for the Browns, and I'm looking at this game as almost a stepping stone or a pivot. If you lose this game, chances are, you're looking at progress, see what Deshaun Watson is, maybe how many yards Kareem Hunt can get, or Nick Chubb can get in the ground for the rushing title. Besides that, it's a wash. But if you can come in here and you can limit the amount of plays Lamar Jackson is going to make him a strategic, just basically a pocket passer, you have a fair shot at winning this game. However, you can't let these guys run wild. You can't have these huge gaping holes. At some point in time, those got to get fixed. And maybe it might be new bodies, maybe it won't. But, I think this game is a winnable game for the Browns, but I wouldn't be totally for sure about betting on them winning this game.
If you were going to wager any money on the Cleveland Browns right now, there's the old line of, a fool and his money it will soon be parted, something of that nature. Yeah, anything. Because even if you were going to bet against them, that'd be the week that they show up, and it's going to bite you in the butt that way, so to speak here. One real quick thing. Lockdown Sports Today, Peter Bukowski. Make sure you guys check that out. It's great because you basically get a synopsis of everything. So now where we have the NBA picking back up, obviously MLB playoffs, the NBA, basically, it's Lockdown's own version of Sports Center. Just make sure you guys go ahead checking that out. The Ravens this year, Lamar, completion percentage, 61%. He's throwing for about 2 bills a game. Lamar's been Lamar. The legs are there. They're as active as ever when he needs to. I think he's being a little bit smarter. And I'm telling you right now, that is probably – Lamar's got no contract after this year. So Lamar's going to take these runs when he thinks they most benefit him. He ain't going to overdo it. Lamar ain't no dummy. No tiki, no shirty, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
He ain't about to be running. I remember one year, I think he had 1,200 yards on the ground. His MVP year. He ain't seen that.
Ain't gonna be the year. Ain't gonna be for the year with that. With no Roland Benjamins after this year. But so he's always got that part. And like I mentioned every year, you can do everything right against this Baltimore Ravens team, and it's still something that you have to worry about. But overall, they're just not running the ball that well this year. They brought in Kenyon Drake. He had a nice week last week, so his numbers are a little bit inflated. J.K. Dobbins, and it's been the talk kind of all year. Maybe the knee's just not right, which definitely gives you some concern because for J.K. Dobbins, we're talking like 15, 16 months since the ACL injury. So, and obviously hurts a little bit here, for the Ohio State Buckeye. Mark Andrews is still Mark Andrews, and, that's never going to stop. It's not stopping anytime soon. Just an absolute beast. That is one of the reasons I absolutely can assure you Deion Jones is going to be a part of this team on Sunday. He will probably walk on the field automatically and be the best coverage linebacker the Browns have. You're going to have to basically go high-low with him with Deion Jones underneath. You're going to have a safety pay attention over the top. We all know Mark Andrews has killed this franchise for years. You almost get the nervousness that one day his number is going to be hanging up in First Energy one day for as well as he's played against his team. Right. Defensively, it's been kind of a mixed bag. They got some veteran edge rushers. They got the kid last year from Penn State, Owa. They brought in Pete Paul. They brought in Justin Hughes. They're guys that can't play every week. Secondary corners, everybody knows Humphrey. Everybody, of course, knows Peters as well. Safeties, they brought in the young man, obviously from Notre Dame. It's been up and down for him. Travis Jones was a player I liked. He's starting to play now a little bit in the middle with Calais Campbell. And you're talking about two guys, and North is 6'6", 325 pounds. It's absolute just bulls. Monster. Absolute bulls in the middle. But this team. And this is one of the things where you can still go through a lot of adversity like this team has gone through. And you go into this game and you kind of know what's coming. Baltimore hasn't done anything different since Lamar's been there. It's just a question of whether or not, you were ready on this down for this, or it's a gamble, or it's a Lamar broken play. There was the game last year. What was it, Garrett? Four drives in a row resulted in turnovers against each other because you got teams that know each other so well. but you got to come in. You got to give a better effort. Also, I did want to mention Rashad Bateman back at practice for the Ravens this week, by far and away their best wide receiver. So it certainly would be, behoove the Browns to get Denzel Ward back this week. Good team. They know who the thing with the Baltimore Ravens is they know who they are. The Cleveland Browns have no idea who they are right now. And it's even going to change again once Deshaun Watson comes back. But the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson, and it's been 4 years running strong now, they know exactly who they are. They know what they do well. And what scares me is this the week the Browns let the Ravens get their running game back on track? I pray to God no. But look, and maybe it's even better, Garrett, that you're getting out of town this week, because it certainly hasn't gone well at home. So, Browns need to go down there. Ravens do give up yards on the ground. We seem to say this every week, but then the Browns get themselves in a position where they kind of have to walk away from the running game because they fall behind. And, if Jacoby Brissett, has to go 10, 12 plays to get them a touchdown, really, really difficult to keep, keep the running game going and keep, Jacoby, in steps, so to speak here. But, it's not like this is, I know everybody, again, for everybody, the world is falling. Look, it's the Baltimore Ravens. And this is one, it's always work. There's no doubt about it. But when you were a kid, and it was always like that time of the year where your dad said, all right, we'll grab the rakes out of the garage. We got to go rake the leaves. You knew it was coming, but you know what? You've done it before. You know what the word is. You got to go out there and you got to basically, you got to reset the clock here if you're the Browns.
Well, at some point in time, somebody has to make plays. It's not only about the talking. There's not enough plays being made. When I mean making plays, I'm talking about special plays. I'm talking about explosive plays. Runs over 25 yards, catches over 30 yards, turnovers, strip sacks, fumbles, balls on the ground. Really big, playmaking, running guys over. These are all things, no penalties. These are all things the game is won on. The game isn't won on rhetoric. The NFL does a really good job of making the NFL a 24-hour news cycle. But so many people have gotten, into, we understand that, these guys can talk a good game and how you got to go about it. But it's about the plays, man. The interceptions, jumping routes. That's what it comes to. Not just communicating and being on the same page. That is not your goal to be a great. Like, if you want to be successful, go to the playoffs, want to win games at the highest level, being able to line up and know who you have in your assignment doesn't mean a hill of beans. You got to make plays, and that's what I want to see from the Browns moving forward, just plays.
Look, all the talking in the world, it don't mean a hill of beans. There's only one thing that is going to change the way people view this team, the way fans cheer about this team, root for this team. Let's go out there and string together some W's. And no, we ain't looking for no moral victory. You got to go down to Baltimore. You got to win. Otherwise, this is pretty. I don't see how this team recovers from 2-5. I really don't. With Cincinnati coming in, and the thing with Cincinnati you're nervous about is Burrow and Chase seem to be getting that thing going on again. And once they get that going, everything else on Cincinnati's offense is kind of just like butter. It's just so easy to achieve. We're going to continue to cover this through the week here. A crossover coming. I think Garrett's going to sit down with Kevin Ostreicher. If you guys haven't heard Kevin before, Kevin's done Ravens for us for years. Kevin's a great kid. Does a fantastic job over there. You'll get your pregame show, all of this stuff here. You'll get Garrett later tonight. Post-game Cleveland Cavaliers coverage. Garrett an espresso or two to make that meeting a little bit later tonight, but it is what it is. Angie, bring home some espresso for Big G. Man's got a long night ahead of him.
Yeah, long.
Garrett Bush, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1. The Barbershop 92.3 The Fan, Saturday mornings, obviously 8 to noon. You can also catch Garrett for pre and post game coverage. Browns, Buckeyes. We'll say farewell to the Guardians for now, as far as that, but we will add in the Cleveland Cavaliers. Make sure you're following at GBush91. Myself, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. The show, Locked On Browns, follow back account DMs are always open. Appreciate everybody makes Locked On Browns their first listen on your favorite podcast app. Of course, now on YouTube, make sure you subscribe with notifications on. You're getting all that info as quick as it's dropping. Also, check out the Roku app, Locked On Cleveland Sports. You'll find Locked On Browns, Locked On Guardians, Locked On Cavs, and of course, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. All that being said, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.